Okay, so I've started the recording. So the reason I've invited you guys to this is so you can have another chance to show proficiency. I'm gonna go through like 3 problems, and you could work ahead of me if you want, but then check and make sure you're getting the right answers. Definitely write these down because then you can use them as a reference. After I go through like 3 problems, I'm gonna have you guys do 5 problems on paper, and then you can stay in here and check your answers. And then you'll like take a picture and send it to me. And if you can't take a picture and send it to me, then we'll find another way for you to show that you're completed it. And then I'll unlock your quiz so you can retake it. So let's take a look at this first problem. This is all, remember, unit 1 is about like evaluating expressions. So there's no equal sign. Unit 2 is when we get into equations. So with this, we're just looking to see, can we combine like terms? And as a reminder, like terms have to have the same variable. So you can combine something that has an x with an x or a y with a y. But if it has like xy and x, those are not the same. And we'll look at that in like an example 2. Or they don't have to have variables. But it does not matter if it's a whole number, fraction, decimal, that doesn't matter. And then the other big thing that I feel like looking through quizzes that you need to be careful of is making sure you're always taking the sign in front of the term with it. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. And you can use, like where I highlight, you can use boxes or circles or something like that to help remind you. So in this problem, like terms, I can combine 2x with negative 7x. So a lot of times students will say, oh, I can combine it with 7x, but you have to take the sign in front with it. So if we can combine those together, I can just do 2 minus 7 or 2 plus negative 7. That's the same thing. You'll get the same answer. So 2 minus 7 would give me negative 5x from combining those together. And then I can also combine negative 5 with positive 2 because they both do not have variables. And if I just put that in a calculator, negative 5 plus 2 would give me negative 3. And then you still got to look to see if there's anything else you can combine. So you can't combine negative 5x with negative 3 because 5 has an x and the 3 doesn't. So that is your final answer. You cannot go any further than that. And then as I'm going, let me pull up my chat so I can keep an eye on it. Stop me at any point. Like if you have a question about a specific problem, then we can talk through that because I'm sure you wouldn't be the only one. So anybody have questions on that so far? So looking at this, like terms, so like I said, they have to have the same variables, same exponents, everything. So even though like we have a negative 5xy, if we look, xy is the variables. All of the other ones do not have just an x and a y. Now you may say, well, what about the negative 4x squared y? X squared y is different than just xy, so they can't be combined. However, we can combine positive 10x with negative 8x. So the signs don't matter, it's the variable. So x and x, that tells me I can combine those together. So then once I do that, so 10 minus 8 would give me 2x. And then the other ones I can just, excuse me, I can just bring those down. So negative 5xy, and then negative 4x squared y. And then none of those have the same variables, so that is my final answer. Okay? If there's no questions on that, then we're going to look at one example of the distributive property. And then if you guys want me to do another, like if you want me to do 2 of distributive property, then we can. But if you feel like you're good on that, so I'll have you guys like respond to me. And if I'm going too fast, let me know that as well, and I can scroll back up to make sure that you copy it. Like I said, definitely use this because you can use it as a reference to kind of see like what did we do in those problems to do the other ones, right? All right, so let's look at one more. So this one is a little bit longer, but we're going to break it up into pieces. So the big thing that you have to do is you have to distribute first. If you don't remember distributive property, I'm going to go through that, but also it's in Unit 1, Practice 4, and you did some problems on paper that you could reference those, or if that's something you're having trouble with, then let me know. So distributive property, what you're looking for is if you have any parentheses in the problem. In this case, we do. Now, the big thing that you have to look at, a lot of times students want to combine these two values first. But if we remember, if a number is next to parentheses, that is multiplication. And using order of operations, multiplication has to come before subtraction. So the first thing that we do always is distribute. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to take 3, and it's actually a -3. So again, careful with the signs. And you're going to multiply that by everything inside the parentheses. And in front of your x, you can put a 1 there. So the next line, 8 just drops down. -3 times 1x is -3x. -3 times -1 is going to give you +3. And then again, this 12x is outside the parentheses, so you don't multiply to that. So it's only what's inside the parentheses. So your 12x just comes down. Once you do the distributive property, everything else is the same that we just talked about. So combining like terms. So I'm going to pause there, and in the chat, just to see that you're paying attention or that you understand what we're going through, just tell me what are 2 terms that are allowed to be combined in that statement, 8 minus 3x plus 3 plus 12x. In this line here, like, are we finished, or can we simplify that further? And if we can simplify it, what is it that we can combine? So if that clarified the question, go ahead and type your answer in the chat. So if you said that we are allowed to combine -3x with +12x, that is correct. So if we do that, that's going to leave us, so check your math, it should leave you with a +9x. Keeping in mind, you can check that on a calculator. So 9x. And then the other piece of it, so if you said you could also combine +8 with +3, that is correct. Or you could bring those down and then check again if you can combine, but you can do it in one step. So 8 plus 3 would give you +11. So you would do +11. So basically, this comes from there, and then +11 comes from the 8 and the 3. So our final answer, can you combine 9x with +11? You can't, because 9 has an x with it and the other one doesn't. So my final answer is just 9x plus 11. So the big thing with this is just being careful with your sign in step 1. So it's not just 3 you're distributing, it's the -3. And then inside the parentheses, it's a -1. So be careful with that. So let me ask you guys there, do you want me to do another problem with distributive? Do you feel like you understand it well enough to try the problems that I have for you on your own? Okay, thank you to those of you that responded. Let's do one more then. Number 4. why don't we do, okay. So why don't you guys think about, so think, what do you think you would do first? And so if you're thinking that you need to distribute, that is correct. So you have to multiply -7. So make sure that you're thinking you're taking that sign with it. And we're going to multiply that by everything inside the parentheses only. So if we had another term out at the end, we wouldn't distribute to that, only what's inside. So I already know I'm not doing anything with this 9x right now. So I'm just bringing that down. The other stuff, because of the parentheses, that's telling me I need to multiply. So -7 times 4, and you can check this on a calculator or use the Desmos calculator. And if you need that link, just let me know. I can send it to you. Would give us -28. And then -7 times -2, so negative times a negative is going to give us positive 14x. Awesome. Now in the chat, will you tell me, is there anything you can that can be combined, or is that our final answer? Okay, so thanks to those of you that answered. So there actually is one more step that we need to do, and we need to combine -9x with positive 14x because those both have x's. So I have to simplify it as much as possible. So if I combine those, and then think in terms of money, if that helps you, if you're doing it in your head, but then you can always check it on a calculator. So if you lost $9 and then you find $14, that means that now you're up $5, right? Or let's say you owe somebody $9, but then you get paid 14. Well, now you have to pay off your debt and you're left with $5. So 5x minus 28. Now those cannot be combined because 5 has an x and -28 does not. So that is your final answer. But you'll need a new piece of paper, or if you have enough space. Now, don't space the problems like I did. Maybe leave like 5 lines between each. So like a lot of these we used like 4 or 5 lines. I skipped lines too, so it depends on how much spacing you need. So here's the 5 problems that I want you guys to work on. So you can copy those down, but again, don't put them like one line next to that because it doesn't give you any space. I've actually just adjusted this problem, so make sure that you copy down this x. There should have been an x at the end of that -10 term. Otherwise, you really couldn't do anything to simplify it.